Well, hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the bridge, everybody. We have a great guest today, Dr. Delphina Avila. And first of all, I forgot to press the music, so hold on. Let me go. Oh, come on. I don't even see it. That's ridiculous. Oh, there it is. I'm sorry for the pause. Oh, come on.
Slow down, you move too
There
fast.
you go.
Gotta make the morning last. Kicking down the cobblestones. Looking for fun and feeling groovy. Ba da 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 da. Feeling groovy.
All right. So I forgot to say that today is episode 85. And Delphina, we're so glad to have you on. And Sandy, have you got a quote for us?
I do. This is by Sevilla Vergara. She's an actress. You've seen her on several shows on TV, most likely. She said that confident people have a way of carrying themselves that makes others attracted to them. I
Mm.
think that's really true. When you see somebody that comes in and feels good about who what they have to present or who they are, it shows in their way of walking and the way of presenting themselves to the world around them.
Absolutely, that presence. So, Dr. Delphina, welcome. Thank you for coming on the bridge with us. And I'm going to let you introduce yourself and then just kind of tell us what what you do and what you love.
Well, I am so grateful and honored to be on episode 85. I want to start by thanking you, Sue and Sandy, for taking a passion and an idea and bringing it to fruition. That's what this is, right? You've taken a passion and idea, and here it is. So I thank you for that. And I love the idea of what you shared about Sevilla and that quote really has to do with influence. And isn't that what leadership is about?
Right.
It's about serving others and knowing that who you are, how you be in the world does make an impact to others. And so honored and grateful to be here with you all.
Well, welcome. We're glad you're here.
So when you talk about sharing my experience, my life, and my journey, I'm going to go back to when I was a little girl because I believe that when we're young, that's when we play. That's when ideas are free. When we have the tree and the tree becomes our dancing friend when the leaves are moving, right? Our creativity just flows and we don't have the restrictions that come with adulthood.
Right. Right. Yeah. We know what happens in early childhood lives. In our lives, that early childhood affect the whole part of our world, even when we don't remember certain things.
Yes, and those experiences they get compacted into our body and our body holds experiences in where we are. And so when we think about my experience, ever since I was a little girl, I was a chatterbox. Can you imagine that? I had a lot to say ever since I was a little girl. And through the grace of God, I grew up on a dirt road. And our home was a little box. It was my nana, grandma gave it to my father. And so it was the home that my parents inherited. And we lived, there were six girls, and we lived in order to get to the restroom, we had to go through my parents' room. So it literally was a box. And it was in those experiences of playing in the potholes because it was a dirt road. And in Phoenix, Arizona, when it rains on a dirt road, it doesn't rain often, but when it rains,
Get a mud hole.
yes. it was a place where, you know, we got to jump in those potholes. And so I have good memories and fondness of a childhood. I also have challenging memories because I grew up in what would be termed as a lower socioeconomic area. And I like to share with people that there's this idea that children who grow up without money come to the classroom without experience.
So true.
And that's not true. I will share with you because Sue and I earlier were talking about it takes time to build, right? Noah got the vision and the revelation of building the ark, and it took many, many years.
Long time, right?
Yes. And so I remember I was in Mrs. Brannigan's class in first grade, and I learned that in special reading class, you could sit on a beanbag. You could play speak and say. Do you remember that game? You could
Yes.
And the teacher was so lovely and nice. And so in first grade, I couldn't read well. See my air quotes?
Yes.
On purpose.
I couldn't read well because who wants to sit in the classroom when you could be in a special reading classroom, sit on a beanbag, play games, and have fun?
Right.
So I share that because as a little girl, I learned about people, about experiences, and I came to the classroom with experiences of jumping in the pothole, splashing water. I didn't come to the classroom with nothing. So you're right, Sandy. It is a lie when we tell people or think that children that come from different backgrounds than the average background are in a deficit. They're not. I believe in the asset model.
I would say, Delphina, that when you don't have all the things that higher, income people have, you have to use your imagination more. I tell you, one of the favorite things that we used to provide in the classrooms when I was teaching was a big box that had been used for shipping dryers and washers and that kind of thing, and giving them opportunity to just take it and let their imagination run. And you ended up having to do that with those potholes. You found ways to entertain yourself and learn from your environment in a place that had its own special sensory opportunities and the different things that surround early childhood education that help you be who you are now today.
And to use your creativity. I want to note that you were very strategic as a little first grader. The fact that you figured out that you would get to sit in the beanbag. Now, in my second grade class, when I was teaching reading, everybody got a turn to sit in the old bathtub. We had an old bathtub that we could read in.
Those porcelain bathtubs, that's what we had in our home.
Yeah.
And I remember, as girls, because there were 6 girls and we were all growing up. And when I remember being in junior high, and, at that time, life changes in junior high and adolescence changes, right? And I remember talking to my dad and being like, Daddy, you have to fix this. We don't have time to take a bath in the morning. We have to do this faster. And this is what he did. I kid you not. He put a pole, just a pipe, all the way up, a pipe went down, and the water came out, and we were in heaven.
Sure, you had a shower.
We had a shower.
Right.
And we could get in and out much quicker. And now as an adult, you bet my shower, this is since we're talking about like invention and creativity and all that. So all of my showers moving forward have had the one that comes off and you can clean the bathroom easier. And now what does that have to do with leadership? I will tell you. And I'm sure you're coming up with all kinds of ideas on your own, right? Yeah. But when you think about, I'm hearing 3 specific things. What happens in leadership showers down.
Right.
Leaders can help cast the vision. Leaders can help spray across what's visible. It's that leader that's on the playground, that relationship builder, you know. And not only that, imagine if the water is plugged and
Yeah.
nothing's coming out of the faucet. So when we talk about my experience, I'm gonna pause for a moment because I would love to hear what you all say before I go deeper into messenger of joy.
Well, what came to me was leader as resource um, provider and or finder. You know,
Mm,
your dad was he took what he had and provided resources.
mhm.
You do that as a creative child too. You come up with out of the box answers that other people haven't thought of,
True.
and they might think you're crazy, but you just forge ahead because it was, you know, God put it in your mind, and after it's in your mind, you need to take action. And so you're
What I was thinking also is that you talked about leadership showers down on the people around them. When you are good at something and you feel passionate about it, as a leader, you share it with others, makes it to shower down. Because when you feel strongly that you know something that will make a difference in people's lives, it's exciting. It's exciting to be able to say, hey, this is something that I have discovered for myself, and I just want to let you know. And it helps to incite the opportunity for people to want to learn from you because you are showing that excitement or that passion, and it's showering down on people.
yeah,
Yeah,
and that shower diffuses what you bring. You know,
Right.
so you're helping other leaders to people to
Right.
grow into leaders because you're it's diffusing. It's not just all in you. You're not hoarding it.
Right. Right.
I
And like
agree.
you said, it is. I know I've heard you say this many times, Sue. That when you have coached, you've learned as much as what you have been training other people to learn. In other words, it gives you opportunity to find within yourself uh, discoveries about things that you didn't know before.
Ooh, that's a perfect segue, Sandy. Thank you. That brings me to that idea of like, why messenger of joy and when did joy really become embodied? And so my name means Delphina comes from the Oracle of Delphi, where divine messages were delivered in Greece. And my middle name, Joyce, Joyce means joy. So my name means messenger of joy. And I prayed about it and I wanted to know, like, okay, if I'm the messenger of joy, what does that mean? Right. And I'm a teacher naturally I'm a trained teacher. I've got my doctorate in educational leadership, but I've also been a teacher ever since I was a little kid. It was part of, you know, who I am.
Yeah.
And so I prayed and I asked about it. I was like, well, what does joy mean? You know, and that's when I learned in a dream, it was a revelation that joy means journey, options, you choose. It's about your free will. It's about your personal agency and is a divine gift. From the moment you arrive on earth, it's yours.
That's right.
It's your present.
It
No
is,
one.
yeah, it's part of the gifts of the spirit. When you do studying into that, love, joy, peace, that's the first three things that are part of the opportunities of that we carry within ourselves that are the fruits of the spirit, they call it. And yeah, joy of the Lord is my strength. I mean, that's been one of my favorite Bible verses, is that when you're up against hard things, don't get caught up in the dark side of things, but remember that that's where your strength comes from. And yeah, absolutely.
Amen. I agree with that. And I give all the glory to God
Yes.
because God gave me this revelation. God, I am chosen. I am named. He called me by name. He created me. And
Right.
all of this wisdom and this learning has come from Him. So thank you, Sandy, for acknowledging His word. And I'm in agreement with that, with you. And so in this same period, I I was teaching about joy as messenger of joy, and I was still refining how we talk about Noah, right? Noah took all these years. He knew what he needed to do, but it took time to do. And there were a lot of things that came along with it, right? Well, I got thyroid cancer.
Wow.
And when I got thyroid cancer, that was really when God did his greatest work, because I remember being in bed, and when I was going through this whole experience, there were times when I was the therapy. I had my thyroid removed, and when my thyroid was removed, they didn't give me my thyroid medication yet. And they didn't give it to me yet because they needed my body to start breaking down, so that when they gave me the therapy, the radiation therapy, my body would soak it up and destroy any cancer cells that were left.
Right.
And so you can imagine, when my thyroid was removed, you need your thyroid to live. If you don't have your thyroid and you don't get medication, you will die, because your thyroid is responsible for all kinds of things within your body.
Right. Right.
And so during that experience, I remember laying in bed, and going to take a shower was so energetically consuming.
Right.
Like, I didn't even have energy to wash my hair. I was so exhausted. Going to the bathroom, just getting up out of bed, walking to the restroom. And so in this experience, I really learned what joy truly is. And that's when I learned that it is one's personal choice to choose. And I have a framework when we talk about connection, because holistic wellness is spirit,
Right.
mind, heart, body.
Mhm.
And during that time, when I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me,
Yes. Right. Love that one.
was it was just so true. And it was during that experience that really I learned what joy truly is, because in that moment, my greatest fear was not about dying. My greatest fear was losing the will to live.
Mhm.
Right.
And how many people have given up the will to live and operate on autopilot?
Right.
Yeah, kind of a numbing.
Yes.
Mhm.
And that's what God taught me. In this experience, I had to pull reservoir and ask for God's grace and strength to get up and to keep living, to
Yes.
continue the fight, to continue to this battle of moving forward, right? And it wasn't on my own.
No.
I couldn't do it on my own. It was
Right.
all through the glory of God.
Mhm.
And so when I teach about joy, that's what it's at. It's about that core. It's about, listen, you can only do so much on your own, and you will burn out
Mhm.
Right.
if you do not have the connection and the reservoir of pulling on the strength, the gifts that are given to you. And you talked about them, Sandy, the gifts of the Spirit.
Yeah.
They're gifts.
Yes.
So that's what that whole journey was about. And that's when I really learned to embody joy, not as a fleeting emotion, but as an embodiment of choice, of exercising my personal agency, of exercising my free will. And so the understanding of messenger of joy really evolved, and it's through the grace of God. And
Yeah.
that's what I do now. I teach about joy. What is joy? What does joy mean? And I say God has given me the revelation of what does joy look like in an operationalized. What are the skills? And so I have a quadrant. It's based on competency quadrant, and there's the restricted mindset, the awakening mindset, the natural mindset, and the joy mindset. And in each of those quadrants, there are very clear behaviors and skills that increase joy and increase skill. And so I'm now, through the grace of God, able to actually teach self regulation, emotional regulation, things like that that make us more grounded and powerfully connected to source.
Right. Right. I think that people, our society has mistaken happiness for joy. And what you're saying is that joy is an inner strength. It is not just about your environment and what makes you happy. It is deeper than that, because joy gets you through things that are hard, the hard things. Happiness does not do that. Joy is it's a deep, deep soul thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, joy is, I like the word choice. It is a choice. And the more granular, I like to use, I just adopted the word granular recently because I went through some things myself.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to that, how do I get out of bed? How do I make it to the bathroom? All those things that people take advantage of. It's really important during those moments to embrace joy and find joy, because joy is not something that's transient.
Mm-hmm.
You do need to train your brain so that you practice joy,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't fleet away. It's there for you. It's a foundation.
Yeah, agree. And there's, when we talk about spirit, mind, heart, and body. So for spirit, when you talk about training your mind, well, before I get to mind, let me tell you about spirit. So spirit is, I call it the joy, free will, conscience. You remember Jiminy Cricket?
Yes.
Okay, so with that in mind, joy, free will, conscience, it's about connecting to your higher power. How do you do that? It's different for everybody, but it's a skill. It's something you learn. You can get better at prayer. You can get better at meditation. You can get better at hearing. You can get better in diving into the Word, the Bible. What does it say? Those are all things you can get better at and learn, right?
Right.
The second thing is purpose. Like for me, I know what my calling is. My calling is messenger of joy. He has named me. He's given me, this is my work here on earth. And it comes out in different ways, but I know what my purpose is, right?
Yeah.
And then purpose driven decision making. This is where people, they kind of fall, this is where an individual can fall away, and or they can get lost. Why? Because one, they don't know what their core values are,
Right.
and so their decision making can be rapid decision making that is not aligned with core values. And so number 4 is core values. What are your core values, and how do you make decisions that align with your core values? Let me give you an example. I worked with an individual who believed that his core values were family. However, his actions were not aligned with family because late night work nights, weekend work, everything was work. And what was so beautiful about it is that this individual wholeheartedly was doing this work for the family, was doing the work to provide financially for the family. So rooted in positive precipitations, this individual was doing this for the family, but didn't realize that it was at the cost of relationships within the family.
Sure.
And so
Positive
that was,
effect.
yes. And that was the decision was, I'm doing this for the family because my family is most important to me. However, really the actionable behaviors were work, not family. And so there was a misalignment in core value decision making. That's something I teach.
Yeah.
That's great. And decision making in leaders, I find to be the most difficult thing to teach. And as you talk about core values, that makes total sense. People kind of will list off core values that maybe somebody else told them about, but they
Mhm.
haven't done the deep work to find out really what's
Right.
most important to them. They haven't listened to the spirit to say, this is who you are. And I think the world kind of makes us frightened
Mhm.
of telling our truth.
Right.
Mhm.
And
Right.
if you can't get authentic and tell your truth, you're going to have a really hard time being an effective leader because you're
Yeah.
not showing yourself forward yourself. You're not showing up.
Yeah. And think about truth. When I shared when I was vulnerable, Brene Brown talks about vulnerability. Like that's all of her work, right? And when I was telling my story about growing up in a home that was a little box with dirt and potholes, if you saw me now, you might not know that I grew up in a lower socioeconomic home. You might not know that because you would see me and you think, oh, messenger of joy, Dr. Joy, right?
Right.
But in sharing that message, when you talk, Sue, about like people are afraid of being brave and being courageous, is because not all of our early experiences or not all of our experiences are happy, beautiful experiences. And so being willing to share the blessing, I call it a blessing. It's when I do reframing, which is part of the mind, right? I look at bounce back blessing, and we do something that's called a joy light line, and we bounce back to what was that experience and what was the blessing in that experience. So I talked about growing up in poverty. Well, one thing I didn't talk about was I was also in an experience where there was alcoholism and there was verbal abuse and there was physical abuse. And so those things, when I did the Joy Light Line and I bounced back, I learned the power of word.
Yeah.
I learned walk your talk your walk, and mean it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I learned that say what I mean what I say. And
Integrity.
all integrity, character ed, that's a virtue.
Yeah.
But I learned that by bouncing back to the experience that at the time, it's not painful anymore because I understand that all life experiences are to mold me into who I am in this now. And because I had those experiences, I am better now because I've chosen to
Right.
hear and learn and understand what was the blessing in that.
Right.
Right.
I
Right.
love the fact that you say bounce back because what you're doing as a coach and a teacher is you're allowing those traumas to be healed,
Mhm.
but not dwelling in them.
Yes.
So often therapy, they go into everything in depth, and you have to stay in trauma of your childhood forever, and it's unnecessary. God heals that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but
Exactly.
you do have to go back and touch the pain and bring it forward, and then you're going to be that perfect person to talk to that person that's in front of you to heal them.
Right.
You're the healer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Delphina, I'm working on a thing for my brother. I did 12 days of Randy. I'm Sandy, he's Randy. And I went back through, and what I did as a gift for him for his birthday was bring back memories and talk about it. And then he would respond, and we went back and forth. So I'm compiling it together for his Christmas present. But going through that, what you're saying is that we all deal with tough things in our life. And I remembered the negative. I started writing it down and re-looking at it and saying, look at the blessings that we had growing up and having, like you said changing of mind or bouncing back, changing that whole paradigm shift and seeing how blessed Randy and I were and the parents that we had and the upbringing that we had. Our parents divorced and all that, and it brought some challenges, but absolutely still seeing dad being engaged with us regardless and seeing the cool things that both of our parents did to bring joy into our life, or to bring wonderful experiences into our life. And it's easy as a human being to look at the cup being half full instead of half empty instead of half full. Like what you're saying is, you have to be intentional about looking at it in a different light.
Yeah, it's called. So thank you, Sandy, and thank you for the work that you're doing with your brother in a loving way. And same to you, Sue, because we can choose to be the salt of the world, and we can be hardcore and be like, you need to get over it.
Yeah,
What happened 10 years ago? Move forward, right?
Doesn't
Or we can, because the three of us happen to be educators, or we can choose to help people have the knowledge, the skills, and the strategies to move forward. And so one thing I teach is reframing, because we can reframe an idea. Like for me, going back to the moment when I experienced, verbal abuse, or whatever that element is, like, it can't hurt me anymore. It happened back a long time ago.
forgive it, let it go.
Yeah, forgive it and let it go. But also, there's something I call it the joy cognitive operating system. And in the joy cognitive operating system, there are 4 things that we can do. One is metacognition. Metacognition is listening to our mind. What are we thinking, right? Because we don't always pay attention to what we're thinking. And if we can learn to pay attention to what we're thinking, because if in that moment I'm like, oh, it was horrible, they were yelling at me, I felt like, and I'm building up that emotion in my mind, there's going to be a result to that, right? So metacognition is one. The second thing is what you were talking about, Sandy, and what you were talking about is creating meaning-based reasoning. And so when I go back to this idea of what was happening, that was traumatizing, that was difficult, that did make an impact on me, I have chosen in this now to create a different meaning to it. And the meaning now is that I learned the power of word. But that's an actual situation that happens within the mind. I call it joy consciousness. And so you are doing joy conscious functioning. I teach people to have a joy upgrade. And so you are functioning through the lens of joy, and you are learning cognitive flexibility. You are learning process awareness, and you're learning intentional appraisal. Now, these all sound like big words, and I'm just throwing them around, but in your learning and in this experience, it's very specific, like where I'm talking to you about being a little girl and getting yelled at and feeling this and deciding to do a bounce back blessing on a joy line, moving through metacognition, meaning based, and understanding the lesson in it, the blessing in it.
Well, and I think as a parent, it turns around when you are a parent and you're thinking, I hope my kids look at me through grace and mercy, because I made some of the same mistakes that I look at my parents. And oftentimes when you react to your children, it's out of fear or out of wanting the best for them, even though it doesn't always come across that way. I think, again, you have to turn that around and say, how was my parent feeling at the time that they yelled at me, or that they reacted to me in a way that caused me, some scars. Really look back at it, and when you have had to develop that as a parent yourself, it changes. It changes because you know that you also reacted to your children maybe in the same way that your parents reacted to you, for the same reasons. Because you didn't wake up and think, well, I just want to cause misery to the people around me. It was one of those things where it was a reaction out of whatever was going on in your life at the time.
Yeah. You're giving me this thought that, and I'm going to be very vulnerable on this. It's coming to me, and I trust spirit on this. And so one of the things when you talk about understanding through the lens of the parent, so I remember having this, I did hypnotherapy. And I also studied to be a hypnotherapist, but I have a friend and we were talking and I was like, oh, I'm struggling with trying to get something. And it was in the business. It was a business experience thing. I'm like, yeah, I'm struggling trying to figure out. She's like, well, how about we just, tap in? Are you open? You want to just do some hypnotherapy? And for me, hypnotherapy isn't about a person putting me in trance. No, it's about me going into my conscious mind, listening and hearing, like, what do I need to hear from this? God, what, show me, give me the revelation. What do I need to know? And what had happened, it was so powerful. So when we were in this hypnotherapy session, I said, oh my heavens, I was holding something against a loved one, and it was unforgiveness. And I thought I had already forgiven this. Like I was like, oh, I forgave that. Like, hello, I can't. But deep in my subconscious mind, I had not forgiven. And what I learned, Sandy, was so powerful. What I learned is in that moment, my father shared with me that he learned from his father. His father wasn't his father was an alcoholic. His father did some of these behaviors. He learned these behaviors. And so he just did those same behaviors because he didn't know any better. So when you talk about, like, as a parent, you're doing your absolutely best. You might not even know that. So I am in 100% agreement. And I am also highlighting that work that I thought I had already done. When I went into a deeper level of love and understanding and willingness to, there's something still, that dust that's behind the bed?
Yeah, right.
You sweep and mop all the time. You thought you got that dust, but when you move the bed, you realize, whoa, there's a dust bunny back there.
Bunnies. Yeah.
Well, and you're breaking the cycle when you touch it. It breaks the pattern. But that deep root of bitterness or betrayal runs deep, and that's why it takes more than one swipe under the bed.
Right.
It really does, and you have to forgive yourself.
Yeah.
Yes. That's the deepest level.
Yeah, the hardest one for sure.
Yeah.
The metacognition you talk about, Delphina, is such, I find that to be so necessary, because when I was working with teachers, if I could teach them to be metacognitive about their teaching, watch themselves doing it, then they could do their own interventions and change in the moment and just become very skilled. But metacognition is, thinking about my thinking. It creates awareness, which then just makes growth explode. You can't contain it once you have done that metacognition.
Yeah. So true. You know what it makes me think about? So I am 53 and coming into midlife. I'm menopausal now. I'm, over that peri, I'm in menopause. And, there were some changes in my body. And one of them was getting hot
Yes.
night. Yes. And also, yes. And sometimes having trouble going to sleep. And when you think of metacognition, it taught me, like, to learn, like, I'm laying down to go to sleep, right? And I'm having a challenge going to sleep. And I realized, like, who's talking in there? Go to sleep. This is nighttime, sleepy time. And I'm like hearing, like, I'm thinking about this process I'm working on, and I'm talking about this situation that happened earlier in the day. I'm creating a future experience. I'm like, turn it on.
I
Good
understand.
night.
Yep. Definitely. Been there, done that one.
Yeah. So metacognition helped me, like, to really think about what's happening in there. Okay, this is not the time. Go to sleep.
Yeah, it's definitely a powerful tool, and it takes a little skill to make that separation so that you're watching, not just being.
Yes.
That's really good. So, oh my gosh, I'm thinking of so many educators I need to send this this recording to. And, we really have done a lot of deep dives into the educational learning process. And I'm so glad that you're on board. I mean, we just need to bring you back, bring you back, bring you back.
Absolutely. Scratch
Yeah.
the surface.
Yeah, absolutely. So be thinking about anything that you want to share with us, because we want to have more of these conversations.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. You know what I want to I want to talk about. There's two other things. I'm not sure how long are we talking?
As long as you want.
Okay, so I want to make sure I talk about two other things
Okay.
because two things. One, we are in a uh, we're in a scarcity positioning of educators and education leaders. We have a shortage. We know that.
Yeah.
And on top of that, we have a high turnaround and a high burnout rate in education. And so one of the things that I do to help is joy, energy in motion. Because sometimes we forget that energy and emotion is
Mhm.
just energy in motion.
Yep.
So when I'm angry, it's an energy that's in motion. And what comes up will come down. My emotions will not stay at this level forever. They will come down. And so part of the skill and the gift that comes with understanding the joy, energy, and motion system is that an educator can learn emotional awareness and emotional regulation, which helps the individual and helps classroom management.
Yeah. Mhm. Absolutely.
Because if I don't understand that that little kindergartner that is under the table screaming and giving me a headache is actually operating at the back of the mind, not the executive functioning, but is operating, yes, then I may not have the clarity or the emotional intelligence to handle it in the most wise way.
Mhm.
Why? Because depending on the voice and the scream and the call and the time, I could be dealing with a headache within my own head and my own frustration. And so, as an educator, I have to learn and get the skill set to be able to be emotionally aware, regulate my emotions as a person first.
Mhm.
Self leadership. Joy is about self leadership. Joy
Yep.
is about personal agency. Because before I can be a servant leader, I need to serve myself and understand self love, self compassion, and taking care of me so that I can be my best.
So you can be grounded there, and yeah, and we have found too that alignment. I call it alignment, but I call it role and goal. We have to be clear with ourselves what our role is, and we have to
Yes.
be clear with the students what their role is, and we need to train them. You
Yes.
know, and being a young educator, some of that takes maturity, but we need to train these teachers so that they can be themselves, and not just be driven by books, textbooks.
Mhm.
I used to always tell my teachers that, I know that you want this curriculum, but you are the curriculum. The
Mhm.
book is not the curriculum. And so it's your presence that causes the learning germ to light up, both in
Mhm.
adults and in kids.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so, I'm not sure we're teaching that, because I don't think a lot of educators know it.
Yeah, you're making me think about when I was teaching kindergarten. I remember this student that I had in my classroom, and he had a beautiful mom. He was a beautiful kid. He was actually in his third year in kindergarten, and he started as a young kinder. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because I remember having the student, and no one ever thought to do some additional testing for the student, it was just, oh, this kid can't learn his letters and he can't. This kid can't learn his letters and his sounds. And I remember working with him, and his mom was diligent. I mean, talk about phonics and, all of the spectrum of this and that. And what we found was within his mind, he could not recall. His mind actually, it was a level of dyslexia.
Sure.
And I share this experience because the book could have told me a million things. My training as an assessment told me all kinds of things. But my love for this student told me something is missing. What is this missing? Because his mom would show up. We would talk about, okay, what are you going to do at home? How are you going to help him? His drawings were so elaborate, and he could speak the most amazing stories about his drawings. And I couldn't figure out, why can't he remember that mom is M-O-M, right? Like I couldn't get it. It wasn't making sense to me because he had all of these other skill sets. And it wasn't until I just looked at him with love. I had education, I had experience, but it was like, what is it? What is it that's missing? What am I not understanding? And the book cannot teach you that.
It's relational. It's relational. It's investment in building relationship.
And you're using your huncher. You're hunching. You have to know your students well, and then a lot of times those dyslexic kids get it. I mean, if he's got comprehension, then he has the capacity to read. He just might not learn till he's in fifth grade to do the letters, but if he's telling stories, he knows how to comprehend.
Yeah.
And then of course some of those artists for sure just have the ability, but they can't actuate it yet.
Yeah. So when you think about the cycle, the full circle, right? So what does that have to do with leaders, with teacher leaders, with educators? The bottom line is, if we don't understand our own energy and our own emotions and our own landscape, how can we look with love at another person if we are struggling? And you said it, Sue. You got to forgive yourself. You got to love yourself first. And that is actually something that can be learned, and I talked about burnout in education, and I talked about high turnover.
And I think JOYce, that's coming to my mind is when you operate out of joy, Delphina, you give yourself hope, and you give hope to the people.
Yes.
And that's it. When you lose hope, you lose direction.
Yeah.
You do.
And with those kids, you've got to continually know that you're gonna find the answer.
Yeah.
It may not be tomorrow, but you know what hits me, and this is a lot about what I learned about adult learners. Adult learners are far more wounded than kid learners because they get wounded for longer.
Yeah.
And a lot of our leaders, I'm going to put leaders in quotes because I would like them to be master teachers and understand that your adults are learners. And you need to teach them in the same ways we teach people to teach elementary and middle school people. They need to be master teachers so they understand learning.
Yeah. And, the instructional leader, you're making me think about, and this is a deep thing. I remember sitting in a leadership training, and I remember saying, it was about 6 years. It was before COVID hit, because we learned a lot in COVID.
Yeah.
So about 6 years. And I remember being in a leadership meeting, and this is all administrators. And I remember saying something to the fact of, you've probably heard that saying, if mama isn't happy, nobody's happy.
Right.
And I remember saying in that time, well, here's the deal. Like, if we're not taking care of educators, taking care of our educators and helping them to grow and to love themselves and do self-care and some self-compassion, then how can they be handling the stress of being in that role? And I remember saying that, it was before COVID. And I remember someone contradicting me and saying, no, it's about the kids. And I remember thinking, It is about the kids. It's totally about the kids. And if I can't handle myself and I'm in charge of those kids, whoa, hello, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But
I'm
at
gonna,
the time, yeah, but at the time, COVID hadn't hit yet.
yeah,
And people didn't understand the importance of social and emotional awareness.
no. Well, I'm going to give you another biblical picture because I forget where I learned this. Sandy, I don't even know if you've heard this one. But so, as an administrator,
Mm-hmm.
it's not my job to feed the kids.
Yeah.
It's my job to feed the sheep who feed the kids.
Right.
So
Mm.
I need to feed my staff, and that's with good, rich teaching, giving
Mm-hmm.
them permission to really teach, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and not just talk to them like they're bobbleheads. I've been in so many meetings where everybody's just going like this. Nobody's listening. Nobody knows anything because
Yes.
the principals aren't teaching them. They're just talking.
Mm-hmm.
So it needs to change, and I'm going to say it's changing
It's changing.
because
Well,
we're
yeah, it's
we're
coming back down to the word picture that she showed us about showering down, having it shower down. It affects everybody, but right, if the shower hits you first, and then it goes to your sheep that you're leading, and then the sheep to the lambs that they're leading. If you
Yeah.
want to look at it from that standpoint.
yeah
Yeah, and I'm going to ask, since I know that you are women of faith, I'm going to ask for your prayers and your positive thoughts. I'm in conversation with a university, and I've chosen this university very specifically, and we're in conversation about bringing the Joy Mindset curriculum into the university and really helping not just educational leaders, because this content, this curriculum, this learning, this understanding is greater than it's just about education. Like, this is good for that Gen Zer, that is working so hard, making good money, but has lost his or her joy.
Right.
That Gen Zer can actually learn from understanding, one, what joy is, and two, how to sustain joy,
Yeah.
sustainable joy. What does it mean? What does it look like? How is it operationalized? How are these capabilities built? That's what joy, the curriculum actually teaches. And so I would ask for your prayers, ask for your positive thinking, because I am Christ-led, Christ-centered, and I consistently need to put my will down. This is not my will. This is whatever. If God's will is that I leave today after this and I never come back, and my time is done, my time is done, right?
Right.
But if God's will is go right, then I want to go right. If it's go left, I want to go left, whatever it is. And part of that is really surrendering to whatever that means, and having the grace and the skill and the discernment to hear, listen, and obey.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I'm praying, I'm praying for whatever it is. Show me the way. I'm going to show up, and you show me how.
yeah,
That's right.
that door is going to open, and it's going to you're going to know, and it
Yes.
will be a match,
Yes.
and then it will spring forth. Oh well, within my soul. But it's a human curriculum. It's not just an educational curriculum.
Right.
Yes.
So God wants people to not only know Him, but know themselves, so they can be themselves, be who they were created to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that.
I love that human curriculum. I'm going to write that down, because it's interesting. When I started, when God gave me this revelation, which was, I want to say back in 2006, when He showed me and it's almost 20 years. when he showed me my name, what it meant. And then later in around 2009, when I had cancer, he showed me like the embodiment of joy and what that meant. He could, we continue to evolve. He continues, he knows I couldn't take it all in one swap.
No.
I wouldn't have been able to process it. Right. And so,
Right.
here we are almost 20 years later. And so in the beginning, I understood it as a human, this is for everybody. But then as I started diving into the business aspect of it, everyone's like, niche it, make it, it's for this and that. And I started, like, I had to change my whole mindset of like, okay, well, what does this mean? I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't just for leaders. Wait, this isn't just for this diversity group, but
Right.
listening to like leader, like business, and I'm on 3 now. I remember my son was telling me when we were talking, he's seen my curriculum, he's seen the research it's based on, et cetera. And he's talking and he's like, Mom, this is for the bigger picture. So when Sue says this is human, I'm like, yes, that is correct. And then last night when I was meeting with someone, we were talking about it, and this is at a gathering. And this individual said to me, this is bigger than just the education population. I'm in the health field, and I see this in the health field and delivering this. I'm like, yeah, so that was number 2, right? And then the third person, this morning I was meeting with someone and we were going specifically over the curriculum, and I was talking about, how it looks. And this person said to me, she said, this is bigger than educational leaders. This is going for business and health, because this is and Sue said it, a human.
Yeah.
So
that's why that meeting on the bridge, our podcast meeting on the bridge, that was to encompass anybody and everybody who wanted to meet on the bridge and talk through stuff. For that very reason is that it affects every communities, it affects families, it affects, people individually. And that's what we wanted, was for anybody to be able to gain some kind of ground on what we were sharing.
And there's not anybody that's been born that doesn't need to be healed.
Right.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is a healing pathway.
Agreed.
So you're spreading the gospel, my dear.
Praise God. And he used me, and so I could chillax and let him do the driving.
Yeah.
Well, one of my favorite texts is about he will direct our path. He is there for us. And oftentimes, Delphina, when you're in the middle of it, you don't see it. And then you look back and you say, boy, I saw your hand, God, in everything that happened in my life.
Well, and there's a great verse from, it's either Jeremiah or Isaiah, that says, call unto me and I will answer you and show you great and mighty things that you don't know.
Yes.
That's one of my favorite verses, because just call on God and he's going to show you the path.
Yeah.
You just have to walk in it like an obedient.
Trust him.
Yep.
Trust him.
So as we close, unless you have anything else burning.
No, this is wonderful.
We want you back.
Absolutely.
We kind of close by saying, what's one takeaway from our conversation this morning or this afternoon for you?
Yeah. So one takeaway from me is that meeting on the bridge, the bridges, there's all kinds of bridges. There's the big bridge in New York.
Yeah.
There's bridges everywhere, right?
Right.
And so thank you, Sandy and Sue, for creating a bridge that is wide enough for anybody.
Right.
To walk on and walk across. And thank you for setting up the structure that is strong enough, that will withhold storms and the waters and the climates that hit it, that may attempt to break the bridge. You're creating the structure, the foundation for, any individual as a human, because as human we're imperfect and we come with all of our shortcomings, and you set that up. So my key takeaway is gratitude for you two for establishing the bridge to allow for voice and opportunity for us to unite and to come together and creating a community of what I call cariño, which is a community of love and care.
Yeah, thank you so much, Delphina. I appreciate that.
Sandy, what's your takeaway?
My takeaway is the reminder of living life with joy, and that is an intentional decision that we have to make for ourselves. That regardless of what comes our direction, we're going to do better with living it from that uh, that lens of joy, no matter what we deal with, and in that it gives us hope for whatever's coming forward.
Yeah. My takeaway is that we just started our new little family here,
Yeah,
family of prayer girls.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Um, God is going to take this curriculum and you into places that you haven't even imagined,
Right.
and spread this human curriculum of healing.
Yeah.
And actually, I don't know if either one of you know much about Charlie Kirk. I've been watching a lot of his podcasts and stuff, but he wanted to bring people together to do exactly what we're trying to do as far as talking and sharing, and being able to do the meeting together and do it in a way that leaves people feeling respected and cared about, even if there's a difference in opinion. That's okay. The conversation is important. We'd be able to talk together in a peaceful way, and I love that.
Yeah, that's what courageous conversations are about.
That's right.
Right.
We don't have to agree with each other, but if
Right.
we can just see each other with dignity,
Right.
accept that, appreciate that, acknowledge that
Right.
we each come with our own learning and our own understanding, and that's enough.
Absolutely.
The greatest human need is to be seen and heard.
Yeah. So, are you ladies? Are you willing to close in prayer?
Absolutely.
Yes. Awesome.
All
Okay.
right.
So, Delphina, you lead us in prayer.
All right. Heavenly Father, we just come to you. We thank you that you've opened up this space and this platform. Lord, you've opened up so many doors that people can talk to each other from nation to nation, and you have preached, you have placed in your word that your word will be shared throughout all nations, Lord, and the door is open for that. That's what this opportunity gives, that the door is open for that. I just thank you for Sue, and I thank you for Sandy, and I ask that you continue to give us your grace, your love, that we are forgiven where we fall short, and that we will use our gifts, our talents, our voice, and all that you have given to us to serve you first and utmost, and to glorify you and to help others to see and know you. And we say all this in your loving Son's name, Christ Jesus. Amen.
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 Thank
Okay.
you, Delphina.
I'm going to take us off recording, and I want you to hang on for just a few minutes, Delphina.
All right.